The gas station at Rainbow's End. Life begins, I thought, as I waved goodbye to Mom and Dad and pulled away from the curb in my reliable old Valiant. Its faded white body stuffed with the belongings I'd packed for my first year at college. I felt strong, independent, ready for anything. Singing to myself above the radio's music, I sped north across the freeways of Los Angeles, then up and over the Grapevine, connecting with Route 99, which carried me through the green agricultural flatlands stretching to the foot of the San Gabriel Mountains. Just before dusk, my winding descent through the Oakland Hills brought me a shimmering view of San Francisco Bay. My excitement grew as I neared the Berkeley campus. After finding my dormitory, I unpacked and gazed out the window at the Golden Gate Bridge and the lights of San Francisco, sparkling in the darkness. 5 minutes later, I was walking along Telegraph Avenue, looking in shop windows, breathing the fresh northern California air, savoring the smells drifting out of tiny cafes. Overwhelmed by it all, I walked the beautifully landscaped paths of the campus until after midnight. The next morning, immediately after breakfast, I walked down to Harmon Gymnasium where I'd be training 6 days a week, 4 muscle straining, somersaulting, sweaty hours a day, pursuing my dreams of becoming a champion. 2 days passed and I was already drowning in a sea of people, papers, and class schedules. Soon the months blended together, passing and changing softly like the mild California seasons. In my classes I survived. In the gym I thrived. A friend once told me I was born to be an acrobat. I certainly looked the part. Clean cut, short brown hair, a lean wiry body, a lean wiry body. I'd always had a penchant for daredevil stunts. Even as a child, I enjoyed playing on the edge of fear. The gymnastics room had become my sanctuary, where I found excitement, challenge, and a measure of satisfaction. By the end of my first 2 years, I had flown to Germany, France, and England, representing the United States Gymnastics Federation. I won the World Trampoline Championship. My gymnastics trophies were piling up in the corner of my room. My picture appeared in the Daily Californian with such regularity that people began to recognize me, and my reputation grew. Women smiled at me. Susie, a savory, unfailingly sweet friend with short blonde hair and a toothpaste smile, paid me amorous visits more and more often. Even my studies were going well. I felt on top of the world. However, in the early autumn 1966, my junior year, something dark and intangible began to take shape. By then, I'd moved out of the dorm and was living alone in a small studio behind my landlord's house. During this time, I felt a growing melancholy. Even in the midst of all my achievements, shortly thereafter, the nightmares started. Nearly every night, I jerked awake, sweating. Almost always, the dream was the same. I walk along a dark city street. Tall buildings without doors or windows loom at me through a dark, swirling mist. A towering shape cloaked in black strides towards me. I feel rather than see a chilling specter, a gleaming white skull with black eye sockets that stare at me in a deathly silence. A finger of white bone points at me. The white knuckle bones cut into a beckoning claw. I freeze. A white-haired man appears from behind the hooded terror. His face is so calm His face is calm and unlined. His footsteps make no sound. I sense somehow that he is my only hope of escape. He has the power to save me, but he doesn't see me and I can't call to him. Mocking my fear, the black hooded death whirls around to face the white-haired man, who laughs in his face. Stunned, I watch. Death fiercely makes a grab for him. The next moment, the specter is hurtling towards me as the old man seizes him by his cloak and tosses him into the air. Suddenly, the Grim Reaper vanishes. The man with the shining white hair looks at me and holds out his hand in a gesture of welcome. I walk toward him, then directly into him, dissolving into his body. When I look down at myself, I see that I'm wearing a black robe. I raise my hands and see bleached white, snarled bones come together in prayer. I'd wake up screaming softly. One night early in December, I lay in bed listening to the howling wind driving through a small crack in the window of my apartment. Sleepless, I got up and threw on my faded Levi's, a t-shirt, sneakers, and down jacket, and walked out into the night. It was 3:05 a.m. I walked aimlessly, inhaling deeply the moist, chilly air, looking up into the starlit sky, listening for a rare sound in the silent streets. The cold made me hungry, so I headed for an all-night gas station to buy some cookies and a soft drink. Hands in my pocket, I hurried across campus, past sleeping houses, before I came to the lights of the service station. It was a bright fluorescent oasis in a darkened wilderness of closed food joints, shops, and movie theaters. I rounded the corner of the garage adjoining the station and nearly fell over a man sitting in the shadows, leaning his chair back against the red tile station wall. Startled, I retreated. He was wearing a red wool cap, gray corduroy pants, white socks, and Japanese sandals. He seemed comfortable enough in a light windbreaker though the wall thermometer by his head registered 38 degrees. Without looking up, he said in a strong, almost musical voice, "Sorry if I frightened you." "Oh no, that's okay. Do you have any soda pop?" "Only have fruit juice here, and don't call me Pop." He turned around me with a half smile, He turned toward me and with a half smile removed his cap, revealing shining white hair. Then he laughed. That laugh! I stared blankly at him for one moment. He was the old man in my dream. The white hair, the clear, unlined face, a tall, slim man of 50 or 60 years old. He laughed again. In my confusion, I somehow found my way to the door marked office and pushed it open. Along with the office door, I had felt another door opening to another dimension. I collapsed onto an old couch and another door and shivered, wondering what might come screaming through the door into my orderly world. My dread was mixed with a strange fascination that I couldn't fathom. I sat breathing shallowly, trying to regain my previous hold on the ordinary world. I looked around the office. It was so different from the sterility and disarray of the usual gas station. The couch I was sitting on was covered by a faded but colorful Mexican blanket. To my left, near the entryway, stood a case of neatly organized traveler's aids, maps, fuses, sunglasses, and so on. Behind the small dark brown walnut desk was an earth-colored corduroy upholstered chair. A spring water dispenser guarded a door marked private. Near me was a second door that led to the garage. What struck me most of all was the home-like atmosphere of the room. A bright yellow shag rug ran its length, stopping just short of the welcome mat at the entry. The walls had recently been painted white, and a few landscape paintings lent them color. The soft, incandescent glow of the lights calmed me. It was a relaxing contrast to the fluorescent glare outside. Overall, the room felt warm, orderly, and secure. How could I have known that it was to be a place of unpredictable adventure, magic, terror, and romance? I only thought then a fireplace would fit in nicely here. Soon my breathing had relaxed, and my mind, if not content, had at least stopped whirling. This white-haired man's resemblance to the man in my dream was surely a coincidence. With a sigh, I stood, zipped up my jacket, and sallied forth into the chill air. He was still sitting there. As I walked past and stole a last quick look at his face, a glimmer in his eyes caught mine. His eyes were like none I've seen before. At first, they seemed to have tears in them, ready to spill over. Then the tears turned into a twinkle, like a reflection of the starlight. I was drawn deeper into his gaze until the stars themselves became only a reflection of his eyes. I was lost for a time, seeing nothing but those eyes. The unyielding and curious eyes of an infant. I don't know how long I stood there. It could have been seconds or minutes, maybe longer. With the start, I became aware of where I was. Mumbling a good night, feeling off balance, I hurried toward the corner. When I reached the curb, I stopped. My neck tingled. I felt that he was watching me. I glanced back. No more than 50 seconds had passed. But there he was, standing on the roof, his arms crossed, looking up at the starry sky. I gaped at the empty chair, still leaning back against the wall, then up again. It was impossible. If he had been changing a wheel on a carriage made from a giant pumpkin drawn by huge mice, the effect could have been any more startling. In the stillness of the night, I stared up at his lean shape, an imposing presence, even at a distance. I heard the stars chime like bells singing in the wind. Suddenly, he snapped his head around and stared directly into my eyes. He was about 60 feet away, but I could almost feel his breath on my face. I shivered, but not from the cold. That doorway where reality dissolved into dreams cracked open again. I looked up at him. Yes, he said. Can I help you? Prophetic words. Excuse me, but you are excused, he smiled. I felt my face flush. This was starting to irritate me. He was playing a game with me, but I didn't know the rules. All right, how did you get up on the roof? Get up on the roof? He queried, looking innocent and puzzled. Yes. How did you get from that chair, I pointed, up to that roof in less than 20 seconds? You were leaning back against the wall right there. I turned, walked over to the corner, and I know exactly what I was doing, his voice boomed. There is no need to describe it to me. The question is, do you know what you were doing? Of course I know what I was doing. I was getting angry now. I wasn't some child to be lectured to, but I desperately wanted to find out the old man's gimmick, so I held my temper and requested politely, Please, sir, tell me how you got up on the roof. He just stared down at me in silence until the back of my neck began to get prickly. Finally, he replied, Use the ladder, it's around back. Then, ignoring me, he looked upward again. I walked quickly around back. Sure enough, there was an old ladder leaning crookedly against the back wall. But the ladder's top was at least 5 feet short of the roof's edge. Even if he could have used it, which was highly doubtful, that wouldn't explain how he got up there in a few seconds. Something landed on my shoulder in the darkness. I gasped and whirled around to see his hand. Somehow he got off the roof and crept up on me. Then I guessed the only possible answer. He had a twin. They obviously got their kicks scaring the wits out of innocent visitors. I accused them immediately. All right, mister, where's your twin? I'm nobody's fool. He frowned slightly, then started to roar with laughter. Ha! That clinched it. I was right, I'd found him out, but his answer made me less sure of myself. If I had a twin, do you think I'd be wasting my time standing here, talking with nobody's fool? He laughed again and strode back toward the garage, leaving me standing open mouthed. I couldn't believe the nerve of this guy. I hurried to catch up with him. He walked into the garage and started to tinker with the carburetor under the hood of an old green Ford pickup. So I'm a fool, huh? I said, sounding even more belligerent than I'd intended. We're all fools together, he replied. It's just that a few people know it. Others don't. You seem to be one of the latter types. Hand me a small wrench, will you? I handed him his damn wrench and started to leave. Before I left, though, I had to know. Please tell me, how did you get up to the roof so fast? I'm really puzzled. He handed me back the wrench, saying, The world's a puzzle. No need to make sense out of it. He pointed to the shelf behind me. I'll need the hammer and the screwdriver now, over there. Frustrated, I watched him for another minute, trying to figure out how to get him to tell me what I wanted to know, but he seemed oblivious to my presence. I gave up and started toward the door when I heard him say, Don't go. He wasn't pleading. He wasn't commanding. It was a matter-of-fact statement. I looked at him. His eyes were soft. Why shouldn't I go? I may be useful to you, he said, deftly removing the carburetor like a surgeon in the middle of a heart transplant. He set it down carefully and turned to face me. I was gaping at him. Here, he said, handing me the carburetor. Take this apart and put the pieces in that can to soak. It will take your mind off our questions. My frustrations dissolved into laughter. This old man could be offensive, but he was interesting too. I decided to be sociable. My name's Dan, I said, reaching out to shake his hand, smiling insincerely. What's yours? He placed a screwdriver in my outstretched hand. My name doesn't matter. Neither does yours. What is important is what lies beyond names and beyond questions. Now you will need the screwdriver to take apart that carburetor, he pointed. Nothing lies beyond questions, I retorted. Like, how did you fly up on that rooftop? I didn't fly, I jumped, was his poker face reply. It's not magic, so don't get your hopes up. In your case, however, I might have to perform some very difficult magic. It looks as if I'm going to have to transform a jackass into a human being. Who the hell you think you are, anyways, to be saying these things to me? I am a warrior, he snapped. Beyond that, who am I depends on who you want me to be. Can't you just answer a straight question? I attacked the carburetor with a vengeance. Ask me one and I'll try, he said, smiling innocently. The screwdriver slipped and I skinned my finger. Damn! I yelled, going to the sink to wash the cut. Socrates handed me a band-aid. All right then, here's a straight question. I determined to keep my voice patient. How can you be useful to me? I have already been useful to you, he replied, pointing to the bandage on my finger. That did it. Look, I can't waste my time here any longer. I need to get some sleep. I put the carburetor down and got ready to leave. How do you know you haven't been asleep your whole life? How do you know you're not asleep right now? He intoned, a twinkle in his eye. Whatever you say, I was too tired to argue anymore. One thing though, before I leave, will you tell me how you pulled off that stunt earlier? He walked up to me, reached out and grasped my hand. Tomorrow, Dan. Tomorrow. He smiled warmly and all my earlier fear and frustration were washed away. My hand, my arm, then my whole body started to tingle. He added, "It's been pleasant seeing you again." "What do you mean again?" I began, then caught myself. "I know, tomorrow, tomorrow." We both laughed. I walked to the door, stopped, turned, stared at him, then said, "Goodbye, Socrates." He looked bewildered, then suddenly good natured. I think he liked the name. I left without another word. I slept through my 8 o'clock class the next morning. By the time my afternoon gymnastic workout started, I was awake and ready to go. After running up and down the bleacher stairs, Rixit and I, along with our teammates, lay on the floor, sweating and panting, stretching our legs, shoulders, and backs. Usually I was silent during this ritual, but today I felt like telling them about last night. All I could say was, I met this unusual guy at a gas station last night. My friends were more involved with the stretching pain in their legs than in my little stories. We warmed up easily, doing a few handstand pull-ups, some sit-ups. So, we warmed up easily, doing a few handstand push-ups, some sit-ups and leg raises, and then began our tumbling series. As I flew through the air again and again, as I swung around the high bar, did scissors on the pommel horse, and struggled through a new muscle-straining ring routine, I wondered about the mysterious feats of the man I named Socrates. My ruffled feelings urged me to avoid him, but I had to make sense out of this enigmatic character. After dinner, I quickly read through my history and psychology assignments, wrote a rough draft of an English paper, and raced out of the apartment. It was 11 p.m. Doubts began to plague me as I neared the station. Did he really want to see me again? What could I say to impress upon him the fact that I was a highly intelligent person? He was there, standing in the doorway. He bowed and with a wave of his arm welcomed me into his office. "Please remove your shoes, a custom of mine." I sat down on the couch and put my shoes nearby, in case I wanted to make a hasty exit. I still didn't trust this mysterious stranger. It was starting to rain outside. The color and warmth of the office was a comfortable contrast to the dark night and ominous clouds outside. I started to feel at ease. Leaning back, I said, "You know, Socrates, I feel as though I've met you before." "You have," he answered, again opening the doorway in my mind where dreams and reality became one. I paused. Socrates, I've been having this dream. You're in it." I watched him carefully, but his face revealed nothing. "I've been in many people's dreams, so have you." "Tell me about our dream," he smiled. I told him in as much detail as I could remember. The room seemed to darken as the terrible scenes became vivid in my mind and my familiar world began to recede. After I finished, he said, "Yep, yes, a very good dream." Before I could ask him what he meant by that, the station bell clanged and clanged again. He put on a poncho and went inside into the wet night. I stared out the window watching him. It was a busy time of evening. It was a busy time of evening. The Friday night rush. Things got pretty hectic, with one customer driving in after another. I felt silly just sitting there, so I went out to help him, but he didn't seem to notice me. An endless line of cars greeted me. Two-tones, reds, greens, blacks, hardtops, pickups, and foreign sports cars. The moods of the customers varied as much as their cars. Only one or two people seemed to know Socrates, but many people looked twice at him, as if noticing something odd but indefinable. Some of the people were in a party mood, laughing loudly and blaring their radios while we waited on them. Socrates laughed right along with them. One or two customers were sullen, putting forth a special effort to be unpleasant, but Socrates treated one and all with the same courtesy, as if each person were his personal guest. After midnight, the cars and customers became more scarce. The cool air seemed unnaturally still after having been filled with raucous noise and activity. As we entered the office Socrates thanked me for my assistance. I shrugged it off, but was pleased that he noticed. It had been a long time since I'd helped anyone with anything. Once inside the warm office, I remembered our unfinished business. I started talking as soon as I flopped onto the couch. Socrates, I have a couple of questions. He held his hands in a gesture of prayer, looking upwards to the office ceiling as if asking for divine guidance or divine patience. What, he sighed, are your questions? Well, I still want to know about the roof, and why you said I'm pleased to see you again, and I want to know what I can do for you and how you can be useful to me, and I want to know how old you are. Let's take the easiest one for now. I'm 96 years old by your time. He was not 96, 56 maybe, 66 at the outside, 76 possible, but amazing. But 96? He was lying. But why would he lie? And I had to find out about the other thing he had let slip too. Socrates, what do you mean by your time? Are you on Eastern Standard Time, or are you? I joked feebly, from outer space. Isn't everyone? He replied. By then I had already considered that as a distinct possibility. I still want to know what we can do for each other. Just this, I wouldn't mind having one last student, and you obviously need a teacher. I have enough teachers, I said too quickly. Oh, do you? He paused. Whether you have a proper teacher or not depends upon what you want to learn. He rose lightly from his chair and walked to the door. Come with me, I want to show you something. We walked to the corner from where we could see down the avenue to the lights of the business district, and beyond them to the lights of San Francisco. The world out there, he said, waving his arm across the horizon, is a school, Dan. Life is the only real teacher. It offers many experiences, and if experience alone brought wisdom and fulfillment, then elderly people would all be happy. But the lessons of experience are hidden. I can help you learn from experience to see the world clearly, and clarity is something you desperately need right now. Your intuition knows this is true, but your mind rebels. You've experienced much, but you've learned little. I don't know about that, Socrates. I wouldn't go that far. No, Dan, you don't know about it yet, but you will, and you will go that far and beyond. I can assure you. We headed back for the office just as a shiny red Toyota pulled in. Socrates continued talking as he opened the gas tank. Like most people, you've been taught to gather information from outside yourself, from books, magazines, experts. He stuck the gas nozzle into the tank. Like this car, you open up and let the facts pour in. Sometimes the information is premium, sometimes it's low octane. You buy your knowledge at the current market rate. You buy your knowledge at the current market rates, much like you buy gasoline. Hey, thanks for reminding me. My tuition check for the next quarter is due in 2 days. Socrates just nodded and continued to fill the customer's tank. When the tank was full, Socrates kept pumping gas until fuel started overflowing the tank and pouring down onto the ground. A flood of gasoline ran across the pavement. Socrates, the tank is full. Watch what you're doing. Ignoring me, he let the flood continue, saying, Dan, like this gas tank, you're overflowing with preconceptions, full of useless knowledge. You hold many facts and opinions, you know little of yourself. Before you can learn, you'll have to first empty your tank. He grinned at me, winked, and turning the pump off with a click, added, Clean up the mess, will you? I got the feeling he was referring to more than the spilled gas. I hurriedly watered down the pavement. Sock took the driver's money and gave him back some change and a smile. We walked back to the office and settled in. What are you going to do? Fill me full of your facts? I bristled. No, I'm not going to burden you with more facts. I'm going to show you body wisdom. Everything you'll ever need to know is within you. The secrets of the universe are imprinted on the cells of your body, but you haven't learned inner vision. You don't know how to read the body. Your only recourse has been Your only recourse has been to read books and listen to experts and hope they are right. When you learn body wisdom, you'll be a teacher among teachers. I made an effort not to smirk. This gas station attendant was accusing my professors of ignorance and implying that my college education was pointless. Oh sure, Socrates, I understand by you what you, Oh sure, Socrates, I understand what you mean by this body wisdom idea, but I don't buy it. He shook his head slowly. You understand many things but have realized practically nothing. What is that supposed to mean? Understanding is one-dimensional. It is a comprehension of the intellect. It leads to knowledge, which you have. Realization, on the other hand, is three-dimensional. It is a simultaneous comprehension of the whole body, the head, heart, and physical instincts. It comes only from clear experience. I'm still not with you. Do you remember when you first learned to drive? Prior to that time, you'd been a passenger. You only understood what it was, but you realized what it was like when you did it for the first time. That's right, I said. I remember feeling, so that's what it's like. Exactly. That phrase describes the experience of realization perfectly. One day you'll say the same thing about life. I sat quietly for a moment, then piped up. You still haven't explained body wisdom. Come with me, Socrates beckoned, leading me towards a door marked private. Once inside, we were in total darkness. I started to tense, but then the fear gave way to keen anticipation. I was about to learn my first real secret, body wisdom. The lights flashed on. We were in a bathroom, and Socrates was peeing loudly into a toilet bowl. This, he said proudly, is body wisdom. His laughter echoed off the tiled walls as I walked out and sat down on the couch and glared at the rug. When he came out, I said, Socrates, I still want to know. If you're going to call me Socrates, he interrupted, you might at least do the name honor by allowing me to ask the questions on occasion, and you can answer them. How does that sound? Fine, I responded. You just asked your question and I answered it. Now it's my turn. After that flying stone you pulled the other night, you are a persistent young man, aren't you? Yes, I am. I didn't get where I am today without persistence. And that's another question you got a straight answer for. Now, can we deal with some of mine? Ignoring me, he asked, where are you today, right now? Eagerly, I started talking about myself. However, I noticed that I was being sidetracked from getting answers to my questions. Still, I told him about my distant and recent past and about my inexplicable depressions. He listened patiently and intently, as if he had all the time in the world, until I finished several hours later. Very well, he said, but you still haven't answered my question about where you are. Yes, I did remember. I told you how I got to where I am today by hard work. Where are you? What do you mean, where am I? Where are you? He repeated softly. I'm here. Where is here? In this office. In this gas station. I was getting impatient with this game. Where is this gas station? In Berkeley. Where is Berkeley? In California. Where is California? In the United States. Where is the United States? On a landmass, one of the continents in the Western Hemisphere. Socrates, where are the continents? I sighed. On the Earth. Are we done yet? Where is the Earth? In the solar system, third planet from the sun. The sun is a small star in the Milky Way galaxy, all right? Where is the Milky Way? Oh, brother, I sighed impatiently, rolling my eyes. In the universe. I sat back and crossed my arms with finality. And where? Socrates smiled. Is the universe? The universe is, well, there are theories about how it's shaped. That's not what I asked. Where is it? I don't know. How can I answer that? That is the point. You cannot answer it, and you never will. There's no knowing about it. You are ignorant of where the universe is, and thus where you are. In fact, you have no knowledge of where anything is, nor do you know what anything is or how it came to be. It's a mystery. My ignorance then is based on this understanding. Your understanding is based on ignorance. I am a humorous fool, you are a serious jackass. Listen, I said, there are things you should know about me. For one thing, I'm already a warrior of sorts. I'm a damn good gymnast. To punctuate what I had said and to show him I could be spontaneous, I stood up from the couch and did a standing backward somersault, landing gracefully on the carpet. Hey, he said, that's great. Do it again. Well, it isn't really that terrific, Sock. It's pretty easy for me. In fact, I did my best to keep the condescension out of my voice, but was unable to hold back a proud smile. I was used to showing this sort of thing to kids at the beach or the park. They always wanted to see it again, too. All right, Sock, watch closely. I leaped upward and was just turning over when someone or something tossed me through the air. I landed in a heap on the couch. The Mexican blanket from the back of the couch wrapped itself around me, covering me. I poked my head out from the covers quickly, looking for Socrates. He was still sitting across the room, 12 feet away, curled in his chair and smiling mischievously. How did you do that? My confusion was as total as his look of innocence. Did you like the ride? He asked. Do you want to see it again? Adding, don't feel badly about your little slip. Dan, even a great warrior like you can make a boo-boo now and then. I stood numbly and straightened the couch, tucking the blankets back in. I had to do something with my hands. I needed time to think. How had he done it? Another question that would go unanswered. Socrates padded softly out of the office to fill the tank of a pickup truck full of household belongings. Off to cheer up another traveler on his journey, I thought. Then I closed my eyes and pondered Sock's apparent defiance of natural laws, or at least common sense. Would you like to learn some secrets? I haven't even heard him come in. He was seated in his chair, his legs crossed. I crossed my legs, too, and leaned forward eagerly. Misjudging the softness of the couch, I leaned a little bit too far and tipped over. Before I could untangle my legs, I found myself sprawled face down on the rug. Socrates was beside himself with laughter. I sat up quickly, ramrod straight. One look at my stolid expression almost made Sock completely helpless with mirth. More accustomed to applause than to ridicule, I leaped to my feet in shame and anger. Sock cut himself short. His face and voice were charged with authority. Sit down, he commanded, pointing to the couch. I sat. I asked you if you wanted to hear a secret. I do. About rooftops. You get to choose whether or not you want to hear a secret. I choose what it is about. Why do you always have to play by your rules? Because it's my station, that's why. Sock spoke with exaggerated petulance, possibly mocking me further. Now pay close attention. By the way, are you comfortable and stable? He winked. I just clenched my teeth. Then I have places to show you and tales to tell. I have secrets to unfold. But before we begin this journey together, you must appreciate that a secret's value is not in what you know, but what you do with what you know. Sock took an old dictionary from his drawer and held it in the air. Use whatever knowledge you have, but see its limitations. Knowledge alone does not suffice. It has no heart. No amount of knowledge will nourish or sustain your spirit. It can never bring you ultimate happiness or peace. Life requires more than knowledge. It requires intense feeling and constant energy. Life demands right action if knowledge is to come alive. I know that, Sock. That's your problem. You know, but you don't act. You're not a warrior. Socrates, I just can't believe that. I know at times I acted like a warrior when the pressure was really on. You should see me in the gym. Granted that you may, in fact, Experience the mind of a warrior on occasion, resolute, flexible, clear, and free of doubt. You can develop the body of a warrior, lithe, supple, sensitive, and filled with energy. In rare moments, you may even feel the heart of a warrior, loving everything and everyone who appears before you. But these qualities are fragmented in you. You lack integration. My task is to put you back together again, Humpty. Wait a damn minute, Socrates. Though I don't doubt you have some unusual talents and like to surround yourself with an air of mystery, I don't see how you can presume to put me back together. Let's look at the situation. I'm a college student. You service cars. I'm a world champion. You tinker in the garage, make tea, and wait for some poor fool to walk in so you can frighten the wits out of him. Maybe I can help put you back together. I didn't quite know what I was saying, but it felt good. Socrates just laughed, shaking his head as if he couldn't quite believe what I'd said. Then he came over to me and knelt down on my side, saying, "You put me back together? Maybe you will have that chance someday, but for now, you should understand the difference between us." He poked me in the ribs, then poked me again and again, saying, "The warrior acts." "Damn it, stop that," I yelled. "You're getting on my nerves." "And the fool only reacts." "Well, what do you expect?" "I poke you and you get irritable. I insult you and you react with pride and anger. I slip on a banana peel and he took 2 steps away from me and slipped, landing with a thud on the carpet. I couldn't hold it in. I bellowed, "Fantasy world is crazy." "Yes," he smiled sadly. "It is crazy." Socrates sat back in his chair and looked down at the floor. My mind rebelled at his helpless old man ploy, but my heart was drawn to this robust old eccentric who claimed to be some kind of warrior. I took my jacket off, removed my shoes, and sat back down. Then a story that my grandfather had told me came to mind. There was once a beloved king whose castle was on a high hill overlooking his shire. He was so popular that the nearby townspeople sent him gifts daily, and his birthday celebration was enjoyed throughout the kingdom. The people loved him for his renowned wisdom and fair judgments. One day, tragedy struck the town. The water supply was polluted, and every man, woman, and child went insane. Only the king, who had a private spring, was spared. Soon after tragedy, the mad townspeople began speaking of how the king was acting strangely, and how his judgments were poor and his wisdom a sham. Many even went so far as to say that this king had gone crazy. His popularity soon vanished. No longer did the people bring him gifts or celebrate his birthday. The lonely king high on the hill had no company at all. One day he decided to leave the hill and pay a visit to the town. It was a warm day, and so he drank from the village fountain. That night there was a great celebration. The people all rejoiced, for their beloved king had regained his sanity. I realized then that the crazy world that Socrates had referred to me was not his world at all, but mine. I stood ready to leave. "Socrates, you've told me to listen to my own body intuition and not depend on what I read or what people tell me. Why then should I sit quietly and listen to what you tell me?" "A very good question," he answered. "There is an equally good answer. First of all, I speak to you from my own experience. I am not relating abstract theory I read in a book, or heard secondhand from an expert. I am one who truly knows his own body and mind, and therefore knows others as well. Besides," he smiled, "how do you know that I'm not your body intuition speaking to you now?" He turned to his desk and picked up some paperwork. I had been dismissed for the evening. My whirling thoughts carried me into the night. I was upset for days afterwards. I felt weak and inadequate around this man, and I was angry about the way he treated me. He constantly seemed to underestimate me. I wasn't a child. Why should I choose to play a jackass sitting in a gas station, I thought, when here in my domain I'm admired and respected? I trained harder than ever in gymnastics. My body burned with fever as I flew and fought my way through routine after routine. Yet it was somehow less satisfying than before. Every time I learned a new move or received a compliment, I remember being tossed through the air onto the couch by that old man. How my coach became concerned about me and wanted to know if anything was wrong. I reassured him that everything was fine, but it wasn't. I just didn't feel like joking around with the guys on the team anymore. I was just confused. That night, I had my Grand Reaper dream again, with a difference. A chortling Socrates, decked out in the Grim Reaper's gloomy setup, pointed a gun at me that went off, shooting out a flag that said bang. I woke up giggling instead of groaning for a change. The next day, I found a note in my mailbox. All it said was rooftop secrets. When Socrates arrived that night, I was already sitting on the station steps, waiting for him. I had come early to question the day attendants about Socrates, to find out his real name, maybe even where he lived, but they just didn't know anything about him. Who cares anyway, once John? He's just some old geezer who likes the night shift. Soccer removed his windbreaker. Well, I pounced. Are you finally going to tell me how you got up on the roof? Yes, I am. I think you're ready to hear it, he said seriously. In ancient Japan, there exists an elite group of warrior assassins. He said the last word with the hissing sound, making me clearly aware of the dark silence lurking outside. My neck started to get that prickly feeling again. These warriors, he continued, were named Ninja. The legends and reputations surrounding them were fearful. It was said that they could change themselves into animals. It was even said that they could fly, for short distances only, of course. Of course, I agreed, feeling the door to the dream world blow open with a chill gust. I wondered what he was leading up to when he beckoned me into the garage when he was working on a Japanese sports car. Got to change the plugs, Socrates said, ducking his head under the sleek hood. Yes, but what about the rooftop? I urged. I'll get to it in a moment as soon as I change these plugs. Be patient. What I'm about to tell you is worth waiting for, believe me. I sat toying with the mallet lying on the work table. From Socrates' corner I heard, this is very amusing work if you really pay attention to it. For him it was, perhaps. Suddenly he put down the plugs, ran over to the light switch and flicked it. And in a darkness so total that I couldn't even see my hands in front of me, I began to get nervous. I never knew what Socrates would do, and after that talk about ninja, Sock, where are you? He yelled from directly behind me. I spun around and fell onto the hood of a Chevy. I don't know, I stammered. Absolutely right, he said, turning on the lights. I guess you are getting smarter, he said, with a Cheshire cat grin. I shook my head at his lunacy and perched myself on the Chevy's fender, glancing under the open hood to find its innards missing. Socrates, will you quit clowning and get on with it? As he deftly screwed in the new plugs, unsnapped the distributor cap, and examined the rotors, he continued. These ninja were not practitioners of magic. Their secret was the most intense physical and mental training known to man. Socrates, where is this all leading? To see where something leads, it's best to wait until you reach the end, he replied and continued with the story. The ninja could swim wearing heavy armor. They could climb sheer walls like lizards, using only fingers and toes in tiny cracks. They designed imaginative scaling ropes, dark and nearly invisible, and used clever ways of hiding. Tricks of distraction, illusion, and escape. The ninja, he finally added, were great jumpers. Now we're getting somewhere. I almost rubbed my hands in anticipation. The young warrior, when still a child, would be trained in jumping in the following manner. He was given a corn seed and told to plant it. Just as the stalk was beginning to grow, the young warrior would jump over the small stalk many, many times. Each day the stalk would grow, each day the child would jump. Soon the stalk was higher than the child's head, but that wouldn't stop him. Finally, if he failed to clear the stalk, he would be given a new seed and would begin over. Eventually, there was no stock that the young ninja could not leap over. Well, then what? What is the secret? I asked, waiting for the final revelation. Socrates paused and took a deep breath. So you see, the young ninja practiced with corn stalks. I practiced with gas stations. Silence filled the room. Then suddenly Sock's musical laughter pealed through the station. He was laughing so hard he had to lean against a Datsun he'd been working on. So that's it, huh? That's how you were going to tell me about rooftops? Dan, that is all you can know until you can do, he answered. You mean you're suddenly going to teach me how to jump on the roof? I asked, my demeanor suddenly brightening. Perhaps so, perhaps not. Each of us have our each of us have our own unique talents. You may learn to jump up on rooftops, he grinned. For now, toss me a screwdriver, will you? I threw it to him. I swear he grabbed it out of the air while looking in the other direction. He finished with it quickly and tossed it back to me, yelling, "Heads up!" I dropped it and fell to the floor with a loud clatter. This was exasperating, and I didn't know how much ridicule I could take. The weeks passed quickly, and my sleepless nights became commonplace. Somehow I adjusted, and there was another change. I found that my visits with Socrates were becoming even more interesting to me than gymnastics practice. Each night while we serviced cars, he put the gas in, I did windows, and both of us joked with customers. He would encourage me to talk about my life. He was strangely silent about his own, meeting my questions with a terse later, or answering complete non sequitur. When I asked him why he was so interested in the details of my life, he said, "I need to understand your personal illusions to grasp the scope of your illness. We're going to have to clean your mind before the door to the warrior's way can open." Don't you touch my mind. I like it just the way it is. If you really liked it the way it is, you wouldn't be here now. You've changed your mind many times in the past. Soon you're going to do it in a more profound way. After that, I decided I was going to have to be very careful with this man. I didn't know him all that well, and I still wasn't sure how crazy he was. As it was, Stock's style was constantly changing, unorthodox, humorous, and even bizarre. Once he ran screaming after a little white dog that had just peed on the station steps, right in the middle of a lecture he was giving me on the supreme benefits of an unshakably serene composure. Another time, about a week later, after we stayed up all night, we walked to Strawberry Creek and stood on a bridge, looking down at the stream overflowing with the winter rains. I wonder how deep the stream is today, I casually remarked, gazing absent-minded down into rushing waters. The next thing I know, I splashed into the churning, muddy brown water. He had tossed me off the bridge. Well, how deep is it? Deep enough, I sputtered, dragging myself and my waterlogged clothes to shore. So much for idle speculation. I made a mental note to keep my mouth shut. As the days passed, I started to notice more and more difference between us. In the office, I devoured candy bars when I got hungry. Sock munched on a fresh apple or pear, or made himself herb tea. I fidgeted around on the couch while he sat serenely still in his chair, like a Buddha. My movements were awkward and noisy compared to the way he softly glided across the floor. And he was an old man, mind you. There were many small lessons that awaited me each night, even in the early days. One night I made the mistake of complaining about how people at school just didn't seem to act very friendly toward me. Softly, he said, "It is better for you to take responsibility for your life." Softly, he said, "It is better for you to take responsibility for your life as it is, instead of blaming others or circumstances for your predicament. As your eyes open, you'll see that your state of health, happiness, and every circumstance of your life has been in large part arranged by you consciously or unconsciously." I don't know what you mean, but I don't think I agree with it. Well, here's a story about a guy like you, Dan. On a construction site in the Midwest, when the lunch whistle blew, all the workers would sit down together to eat, and with singular regularity, Sam would open his lunch pail and start to complain. "Son of a gun," he cried. "Not peanut butter and jelly sandwiches again. I hate peanut butter jelly and sandwich. I hate peanut butter and jelly." Sam moaned about his peanut butter and jelly sandwiches day after day after day. Weeks passed, and the other workers were getting irritated by his behavior. Finally, another man on the work crew said, "For Christ's sake, Sam, if you hate peanut butter and jelly so much, why don't you just tell your old lady to make you something different?" "What do you mean, my old lady?" Sam replied. "I'm not married. I make my own sandwiches." Socrates paused and added, "So you see, we all make our own sandwiches in this life." He handed me a brown bag with two sandwiches in it. "Do you want cheese and tomato or tomato and cheese?" he asked, grinning. "Okay, just give me either," I adjusted back. As we munched, Socrates said, "When you become fully responsible for your life, you can become fully human. Once you become human, you may discover what it means to be a warrior." "Thanks, Sock, for the food for thought and for belly." I bowed grandly. Then I put on my jacket and got ready to leave. I won't be by for a couple of weeks. Finals are coming up, and I have had some hard thinking to do. And I also have some hard thinking to do. Before he could come in, I waved goodbye and left for home. I lost myself in the semester's last classes. My hours in the gym were spent in the hardest training I'd ever done. Whenever I stopped pushing myself, my thoughts and feelings began to stir uneasily. I felt the first signs of what was to become a growing sense of alienation from my everyday world. For the first time in my life, I had a choice between two distinct realities. One was crazy and one was sane, but I just didn't know which was which, so I committed myself to neither. I couldn't shake a growing sense that maybe, just maybe, Socrates was not so eccentric after all. Perhaps his descriptions of my life had been more accurate than I'd imagined. I began to realize how I acted with people, and what I saw began to disturb me. I was sociable enough on the outside, but I was really only concerned about myself. Bill, one of my best friends, fell from the horse and broke his wrist. Rick learned the full twisting back somersault that he'd been working on for a year. I felt the same emotional response in both cases. Nothing. Under the weight of my growing self-knowledge, my self-esteem was sinking fast. One night, just before finals, I heard a knock at my door. I was surprised and happy to find Toothpaste Susie, the blonde cheerleader I hadn't seen in weeks. I realized how lonely I'd been. "Aren't you going to invite me in, Danny?" "Oh, yes. I'm really glad to see you. Sit down. Let me take your coat. Would you like something to eat? Something to drink?" She just gazed at me. "What is it, Susie?" "You look tired, Danny," but she reached out and touched my face. "There's something. Your eyes look different somehow. What is it?" I touched her cheek. "Stay with me tonight, Susie." "I thought you'd never ask. I brought my toothbrush." The next morning, I turned over to smell Sue's tousled hair, sweet like summer straw, and to feel her soft breath on my pillow. I should feel good, I thought, but my mood was gray like the fog outside. For the next few days, Sue and I spent a lot of time together. I don't think I was very good company, but Sue's spirits were enough for both of us. Something kept me from telling her about Socrates. She was in another world, a world in which she had no part. How could she understand when I couldn't even fathom what was happening to me? Finals came and went. I did well, but I didn't care. Susie went home for spring vacation, and I was glad to be alone. Spring vacation was soon over, and warm winds blew through the littered streets of Berkeley. I knew that it was time to return to that warrior's world, to that strange little gas station, this time perhaps more open and more humble than before. But now I was more sure of one thing. If Socrates cut at me with his sharp wit again, I was going to slash right back.